All right, man, peace. So, brothers, a few months ago, I did a video called, Does Draymond Green Want Kevin Durant Out of Golden State So That He Can Get Paid? And we're going to watch an interview right here in which I believe he's going to covertly acknowledge that he was in a no-lose situation when it comes to Kevin Durant. Either KD was going to stay, and they were going to try to see if they could win a third title in 4 years with that quote-unquote super team, or KD leaves and it allows Draymond Green to do what he really wants to do. That is, sign a big contract, not something too exorbitant, but they can take back their franchise, let KD go away, see if Kevin can try to win a championship on his own, and now they'll have the ability to validate the power of the original triumvirate, the prestige of the core players that were drafted by Golden State, because the media is very confused when it comes to how they want to assess Golden State. They're not quite sure what to do with them. They claim that Golden State was already a super team before KD got there, but when KD leaves, they're barely going to make the playoffs. So it's really just an issue of we don't know who we want to give credit to because we're still upset that Golden State cost LeBron James so many championships. But just to get back to the point, Draymond's going to state that there was a method to his madness over the course of this past season when it comes to how he acted. They're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
As the Warriors are looking to move on, and they're moving on with a guy that they drafted in the second round. That's Draymond Green. And you know, while Steph and Clay they have the splashy nickname, Draymond Green's talk and walk have created its own waves. And
Draymond has a splashy nickname too, the Donkey.
Now the second-round pick turned three-time champ and all-star has a new $100 million contract extension, solidifying the Warriors' big three into 2022.
Draymond reminds me of one of the kids in a home where they allow another child from off the street to move in. That other child from off the street is more talented than the flesh and blood children of the parents. After a while, even though they've opened up their homes and their hearts, the children do start to feel a certain type of way. And whether it's consciously or subconsciously, they're going to try to force that talented child from the streets out. Especially someone who's as insecure as Draymond is and whose career is as tenuous as Draymond's could be considered to be, as I believe he himself is going to acknowledge. Draymond is not KD. He's not Steph. He's not even Clay when it comes to how he was appraised coming out of college. So he knows he had to build himself up, and he also shows a great amount of self-awareness. I honestly could have made this video under the Self-Awareness is Key series, but I chose to title it Method to My Madness because that's a phrase that he's going to use in this video. And it's basically going to show that he utilized certain machinations to get his way over the course of this season, much like a child who threw tantrums and acted out because there was something going on in his home that he did not like. I think that Draymond was getting tired of the whole Kevin Durant energy. I believe that there are going to be things that we're going to find out down the line that are going to indicate why certain things did not go as well as they could have gone, not just this season, but the past couple of years with KD and Golden State.
Now, while they're locked down, being the overwhelming title favorite is no longer a lock. But Draymond has made a career of proving people wrong, and now he has the money to put where his mouth is, which he used to talk to our Rachel Nichols about the state of Golden State.
That's why the nickname Donkey is so great for Draymond. He makes a lot of noise, he carries a heavy burden, and he acts like a jackass.
You have been living your best life these past couple of weeks. Music festival in Toronto with Drake, Boogie Cousins' bachelor party in the Bahamas. You and I are sitting here right now in Las Vegas. It's been an okay summer, and then that whole contract thing, too.
Draymond was rumored to be released from Dub Nation, but instead he is backing up the Brinks truck getting paid.
The Warriors keeping the core together.
Draymond Green and the Warriors have agreed to a $100 million extension.
Was there a point where you maybe got up to the hotel room where you had a second alone that you just said, damn, $100 million?
There's been several points where I've sat back and said, wow, I signed for $100 million.
Let's also keep this in mind. Had KD come back, they would not have had anywhere near enough money to pay Draymond Green $100 million over the course of the next 4 seasons. And he knows that.
That's not your normal thing for a kid from Saginaw, Michigan. Like, I'm still at a loss for words about it.
You were never the most highly recruited guy going into college, out of college, 35th pick in the draft. And then even once you were successful, there were a lot of people who did not like the way you went about your business. You had arguments with your coaches, teammates, suspension in the NBA Finals. What does this contract say validating the way you have gone about your life and your career?
What the contract really says is that Golden State understands that he fits in perfectly to their system, and Draymond understands that the Golden State system is perfect for him. He knows that he can't go anywhere else in the NBA and be as potent a player as he is with Golden State because he's playing with two historically great shooters. And that opens things up for him to where there's nowhere near as much pressure as there would be if he were to go to the Charlotte Hornets or to the Orlando Magic, etc. Where he would certainly get exposed as a player who's not as multifaceted as we believe he is right now. He fits in so perfectly with the Golden State Warriors. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame because of the system that he plays in. And don't get it twisted. Draymond Green is a player who can bring a lot to the table for a lot of teams. But he would be nowhere near as effective on many other teams as he is on Golden State.
That's right. Tells you that all the garbage that you try to say about me arguing with Kevin or about the thing with Steve Kerr, about the suspension, it just tells you that there was a method to that madness.
No, there was no real method to that madness, bro. Let's not try to act like you were someone who was thinking 7, 8 steps ahead. You're more intelligent than people think you are, but at the end of the day, you're also someone who has issues with your emotions.
So many people tried to write it differently. It's proof in the pudding now that you're wrong. And I enjoy that just a tad.
He said, I enjoy that just a tad. Well, the litmus test for Draymond Green as well as the rest of the Warriors is going to come this season, especially after Klay Thompson comes back. They're going to have to make a good playoff run. Because if they go out in the first or second round, how the media is going to spin it is that they're nothing without Kevin Durant. So this is a major challenge for the Warriors this season, even though for the most part, the narrative on them is that this is a pressure-free year. Still in all, if they don't make the playoffs or they do get to the playoffs and Klay Thompson comes back and they don't at least put up a great fight in the second round against, say, the Lakers or the Rockets or the Clippers, the narrative that's going to be propagated is that the Golden State Warriors are not a championship caliber team without KD. And just to get back to Draymond for a moment, as I've already stated, it was very clear to me that he was uncomfortable, at least subconsciously, he was uncomfortable with the Kevin Durant element on the squad. I think that he thought that Kevin Durant was not as submissive to him as he needed to be. As Kevin started to feel himself, as he started to mature, I think that he was less deferential to Draymond, and Draymond took offense to that. And whether it was subconscious or conscious, he went about trying to push Kevin Durant off the team, also understanding that there was going to be a direct correlation to Kevin's continued presence on the squad and his ability to make as much money as he needed to make. He's either 30 or he's about to be 30. So this is going to be his last big contract.
A lot. I am the guy who you said could never play in this league. You were wrong. I am the guy who you wanted to make out to be a dummy. You couldn't have been much further away from the truth.
Well, brother, I don't think that you're a dummy. I just think that you're a jackass. That's why that nickname Donkey fits you so well. Because once again, you carry a very heavy burden and you can kick the shit out of people just like a donkey. If you walk up behind a donkey and that donkey gets scared, he will kick the shit out of you. So that's definitely Draymond.
There was a lot of feeling in front offices around the league that, hey, of the core guys, Draymond's the one that they should move on from. What did you hear from the Warriors about their reasoning, why they didn't want to do that and they thought keeping you was so important?
The reason why the Warriors did not trade Draymond is because they were not assured of whether or not they would have been able to keep KD. If KD or his representation had gone to Joe Lacob or to Bob Myers or whoever and said, look, we want to stay here, but Draymond has to go. If they had made that type of demand or request before the trade deadline, Draymond would have been jettisoned. I promise you that. They were not going to choose Draymond Green over Kevin Durant. The real issue is that it became clearer and clearer to the Golden State front office, especially with what they were hearing about the New York Knicks and whoever else, that KD was out. So it would have made no sense to trade Draymond Green.
Only, had the utmost support from the organization. And so that's all I've ever really went with. You know, I heard the noise. I've heard that over and over again. But, you know, on the flip side of that, I also had a great organization telling me the complete opposite. I couldn't have been a fool to believe it. But don't seem like I was such a fool after all.
And on your side, too, there were people who have been saying over the past couple weeks, why would he sign this extension now? Next summer is not going to be like this past summer. You would have been the most high-profile free agent available on the market.
That's true, but to Draymond's credit, he wants to win. And he knows that his best chance of winning is in Golden State, because one thing that Draymond does have is an extremely high basketball IQ. So he knows that the vast majority of the other teams across the NBA are dumb. Golden State does not have the most raw talent of any team in the NBA, but they understand how to play, and they play in a schematic that's best for them and the type of talent that they have on their squad. They're not asking Steph Curry and Klay Thompson to dunk over 7-footers. They're asking them to do what they do best. Draymond grasps that, and he knows that he can go to another team that might have just as much raw talent as the Golden State Warriors, but they don't mesh as well together, and that will lessen his chances of winning a championship. Plus, he's comfortable where he's at.
Why lock yourself up now on your side of things?
Well, I think a few reasons. You know, people always talk about testing the market, but if you're testing something, there's a possibility that you come up short.
In other words, you know that if you move on to another team, you may not fit in as well there.
That's one side of it. The flip side of it is I got two guys that I've been rolling with since the time I stepped into this league, and Steph and Klay. We started this whole Golden State thing when it wasn't so sexy. Why would I get to this point where we have built this entire organization up and bailed on it? Like, you know, you don't bail on your baby. You know, the Golden State Warriors, that's our baby.
In other words, Kevin Durant is not a homegrown child. He was someone that we brought in from off the street. It was time for him to go, so we kicked him out.
Golden State Warriors are going to look very different from here on out, though. The biggest departure is, of course, Kevin Durant.
Or he decided to get his own apartment, whatever term you prefer to use. Either way, KD's gone.
Kevin this summer?
Absolutely. I actually talked to K yesterday. That's my brother. You know, if someone would have told me, man, Kevin Durant's going to come to the Warriors, and you guys are going to win 2 championships and then have a shot at winning the third, would you take that?
Hell no, you wouldn't take it. You would say, why haven't we won 3 straight? For us to have Steph Curry, myself, Klay Thompson, and KD, we're supposed to win 3 straight. The actual crux of the matter is that Draymond Green is very happy, and I believe that he knows that he's very fortunate that KD went down with the ruptured Achilles tendon. Because what that does is that takes away any culpability from him. Had the Golden State Warriors lost in the finals to the Toronto Raptors, or lost earlier than that to the Rockets, all of a sudden the media would have panned back to that situation that occurred between himself and KD. So now that both of them can still have some level of brotherhood, knowing we made it through this very toxic situation and neither one of us are going to be blamed for the loss.
In a heartbeat. And so that was a major success, and I'm happy for him.
How did he tell you that he was picking Brooklyn?
I found out that he was picking Brooklyn when everybody else found out, which is exactly how it should be. He owe it to me to tell me before he tell everybody else. Like,
in other words, Draymond, you know that you're just trying to move on past that situation. You wish that you had been told that he was going to Brooklyn, but the fact that he didn't tell you was not that big of a deal, because at that point, the both of you were ready for a divorce.
Did what we had to do. The thing that people forget about in this league is, like, this is our lives. I'm not about to go to Kevin Durant and say, hey, Kevin, can I get my fiance pregnant?
Right.
Yeah, I get that, and that's a cute little attempt at a misdirection. But you clearly were concerned with Kevin Durant's personal business and his professional business early last season with the way that you exploded on him in that Clipper game. So let's not try to act like all of a sudden you respect his manhood now. And just that analogy is a bit off-putting. Even Rachel Nichols is disgusted. She's like, oh my God, I have a vision of 2 donkeys having sex.
But that's my life.
Thank you for that visual, by the way.
I'm sorry, but it's my life. Like, am I supposed to come to you and A, let you know that that's what I want to do, or B, ask you for permission?
Yeah, all of a sudden you're so considerate of Kevin Durant's business decisions. I got you.
And so I found out when everybody else found out, which is exactly how it should be.
We remember what you said at the end of the NBA Finals.
Everybody thinks it's kind of the end of us. That's just not smart. We're not done yet.
Do you still feel that way?
I've heard people say we're not going to make the playoffs. That's crazy to me.
No, they're going to make the playoffs. Right now, the Golden State Warriors, they remind me a lot of the 1991-92 Detroit Pistons. That was the team the year after they got swept by the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, the infamous Game 4 where Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer walked off the court. They came back the next season, won about 50 games, and then went out in the first round of the playoffs to the New York Knicks. Is that what's going to happen to the Golden State Warriors? Who knows? What I do know about them is that they have a lot of mileage on those tires. So it really wouldn't shock me, especially if Klay Thompson does not make it back as early as they hope, and if they're not able to carry the team or hold off these other teams that are looking to scalp them over the course of this season. So it's going to be a very interesting year for the Golden State Warriors.
I mean, that's just like, that's total disrespect, but no different than the disrespect we've all been getting for years.
What kind of Draymond Green are we going to see this season? Because last season, there were points where you got injured, that tumbled into you being out of shape. You had 5-year lows in a lot of major categories, shooting problems. Then in the playoffs, we saw a totally different Draymond Green. Diet, you were a monster on the court on both ends. Are you going to be able to keep that up through all of next season?
Absolutely. Last year taught me a lot. You know, diet, you know, taking care of my body, you know, all the things that I'm 29 now that I need to know.
You just figured out at 29 that you have to work out and take care of your body, brother. Come on, man.
And I was able to get that through the course of last year and still able to rise up throughout the playoffs and do what I've normally done.
Your big ass was out there over the course of the first 60 to 70% of the regular season eating Snicker bars and, and Hershey Kisses. And you finally got your diet straight and you turned into a monster in the playoffs. He played the best I've ever seen him play in the 2019 playoffs. He was incredible.
I look forward to doing that for the entire season again and again and again.
And it just goes to show you how much of a factor conditioning plays in overall performance.
What Draymond Green will you see? A different one. Because the circumstances are different. But the method behind the madness always remains the same.
So we're sitting here in Las Vegas. The odds makers have not given you guys good odds to win the title compared to some of the other teams. And it reminds me a little bit of the beginning of this conversation. You were not given very good odds to be sitting here doing this interview talking about your $100 million contract. What do you make of odds as you go forward here?
I like it. You know, being an underdog, it's been a while since we've been an underdog. But it brings that underdog chip back. And I miss that chip. I'm pretty sure Steph missed that chip. And some of the stuff Klay been texting me this summer, I'm positive he misses the chip. So I like where we're at. I'm excited about it.
Klay Thompson going to try to come back in late January, early February, but they're probably going to hold him off until after the All-Star break.
Look forward to it. So to the odds maker, thanks. You got me where I am today. I look forward to where they take me again.
So big thanks to Rachel and Draymond for that. Despite losing Kevin Durant, the Warriors have the 5th best odds to win next season's NBA title according to Caesar Sportsbook. So first things first, my biggest takeaway from that conversation, if I were Draymond, would I want KD to tell me that he's leaving the team? Yup. Would I want him to tell me when he's going to procreate with his fiance? Nope. Just saying. But no, there's so much there. Draymond's such a dynamic personality, and that has been such a big contributor to the success of the Warriors over the years. But it is a brand new team, even though that foundation is still there. He said it's going to be a different Draymond. What kind of Draymond do you think we're going to see with this new Warriors?
I don't know.
He's going to have to be a drill sergeant Draymond because he's going to have to whip D'Angelo Russell into shape very quickly. A lot of these players across the NBA, they play on these little teams that win 40 to 45 games, and they think that they're playing winning basketball when they're really not. Draymond's going to have to show D'Angelo Russell what real winning basketball is. And D'Angelo's going to have to get in the best shape of his life because he just thinks that he's in shape. When you play alongside of a Draymond Green who is ready for battle and a Steph Curry they're going to show you a different level of conditioning because it's going to be constant movement even without the basketball.
Too different than the guy we saw in the playoffs because he was fantastic. You know, in the finals, I felt like at times he looked like their most important player. A lot of distributing going through him. Obviously, we know what he does defensively and just the confidence and presence he brings to the court. But getting back to the point about the conversation or lack thereof with KD, I think it's a good teaching moment for all of us who are around the league, who cover the league, who are fans of the league, that, you know, perhaps the players look at it differently. They're all individual entities. And if Google's going to make a decision, because Draymond's used this explanation before, if Google's going to make a decision, they're going to check with Apple. They're going to do what's right for Google. And Apple's going to find out in the news, just like everybody else. And
in this day and age, there's just way too much money on the line to be that concerned about what a teammate's going to think about your personal business decision. You just cannot be concerned about that at all.
You know, I think that is something to learn here and just realize that it's not like a text message thread with your friends. There's a lot of money at stake. There's other things at stake that they don't necessarily expect their teammates to go above and beyond to inform them on.
My takeaway from that conversation is why Draymond Green is going to be in the Hall of Fame. You saw that he knows what to say and when to say it. He knows how to motivate himself. This is a guy who, as he said, was a second-round pick, has become a multi-time All-Star, has become one of the best defensive players in the history of the game, has really changed the way the game is played by being a small ball center. You know, him and Steph on offense and Draymond on defense are the reasons why the Warriors have been such a special team. Because they...
Well, I would not quite call Draymond Green a small ball center. I think that a lot of the small ball aspect of the potency of the Warriors started to dissolve over the last couple of years. And really, Kevin Durant became their small ball center. That's why they lost in the finals this past season, because there was no KD there.
At both of those ends of the court, allowed to do Golden State to do things that no other team could do. And like Dave said, in the playoffs, you saw that from Draymond again. Once he cut the weight, once he got healthy, he got that explosion back. And we both saw Bob Myers yesterday at Team USA practice, and he looked kind of re-energized and kind of had a breath of fresh air after, you know, that team the last few years that had so much pressure on it all the time. And he was joking with Lawrence Frank about how, you know, the pressure wasn't going to be on them anymore, right? And I do think from Draymond's standpoint, we talked about Steph yesterday, talking about, you know, kind of laughing at the haters, right? I do think these guys are going to feel a lot of energy from the fact that people are doubting them and that they aren't on top anymore.
Yeah, and I think the switch now from being one of the most experienced teams in the league to that foundation and then a whole bunch of young guys, they have to take on new roles, and Draymond specifically, he has to get over his issues, which he did last year a bit, and learn how to take on a real mentor role for this new era.
That's why I stated that his new role is going to be drill sergeant. It's going to be very difficult adjusting for Draymond Green, I would say, in the first 2 or 3 months of the season, because him and Steph Curry are going to have to whip a lot of those young guys into shape. And the loss of Andre Iguodala is going to be almost as pivotal as the loss of KD. It really is. Because Iguodala is that guy that you could put on a James Harden. You could put on a LeBron James. You could put on a Dame Lillard. You could put him on a Russell Westbrook. You could put him on a Kawhi. You don't have that guy anymore. So now you're going to ask a Klay Thompson coming back from a torn ACL to guard those type of players on the defensive end when and if he finally comes back. So they're going to have to search out a player who can even attempt to approximate what Iguodala did defensively
for the Warriors. So it was an incredible interview, and if you want to watch it again, because I think I really want to watch it again, you can check it out on ESPN.com. But we have so much.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see if Draymond actually has a method to his madness, or if he's just trying to come up with some type of concept to explain his inability to control his own emotions. So peace.